Yes, hello everybody. Welcome to this thing that we call Full Course Yellow, coming to you at the earlier time of 9 o'clock, not straight after In Pit Lane. It's not the after show this week, it's the instead of show. Yes, In Pit Lane finished, well, in a way it's an after show, it's an after series. It was, because there was a show, but it was last week. If you missed it, it's gone. Well, no, it's not gone, actually. You can watch it on the YouTube channel, so there you go, you won't miss anything. So there isn't modern technology wonderful? Welcome everybody to the program. It's good to see you once again. Hopefully we've got a few people watching. Oh yes, we've got some people watching. We'll catch up with. We'll do the roll call in just a moment and see who's with us. So if you're watching us, leave a comment. Let us know if you're watching us and who you are and where you're from and all those sorts of things, and we'll say hello to you. But also joining us this week, as per usual, some of the regulars are there. We've got Peter is joining us. We've got Chris, and also we got Doc as well. So, g'day guys. Welcome to tonight, for whatever it is. Stuart not with us. Also, Stilly. I think Stilly's down at Dave Stillwell's down at Phillip Island,
and more importantly, yes, the tech guru, Mr. Stuart Fairweather, will be probably diving into his mac and cheese at this stage. So. It's probably a bit early for him. It's dinner time.
It's probably it's breakfast. Well, for Stuart, it's breakfast.
He's usually just finishing him off while he's on there with us. He's just finishing the plate off, but he's probably just starting it, so he's fully engrossed.
Hey, well, I tell you what, if he's having dinner now, he's ahead of me because I certainly haven't had dinner yet. So I'll be looking forward to when this finishes grabbing.
So hello to everyone out there in YouTube land eating their supper, watching us. Thanks for joining us.
Indeed.
There we go. Let's have a look at the roll call. Russell Clark joining us once again, hanging out for a bit of Island Magic. Yes, that's coming up this weekend, and hopefully we'll be down there on the weekend. Or I'm going to try and get down on Sunday if all goes according to plan. We're having a few issues here and there, but we should hopefully sort those out, and we'll get down there on Sunday, at least for a little while, and wave a camera about if that's at all possible.
Just on Russell's, before you bring up the next one, I've got something lightly in his comments there. I want to bring up later. Have to settle for the smell of race fuel. Well, there's been the development in the MotoGP world, which we'll get to later on in our show, about fuel. So and it's not methanol. So we'll get to that later. Yep.
Yes, that is in the in the rundown for tonight. Yes, Tony Pin, g'day Tony. How are you? Box also joining us.
Triple B.
There you are. Virtual R is also joining us. Yeah, Roy, nice to see you again. And of course, we've got Keith there joining us from Melbourne as well, from far away Melbourne. Well, just 10 minutes up the road.
It's tough actually having to get a flight over to New York for this YouTube show at the In Pit Lane studio offices combined overlooking Central Park there in New York. It's really awkward.
It's a fabulous vista that we've got. It's the only office. Not only does it overlook Central Park, it still overlooks beautiful Lake Geneva. It's the only building in the world that actually has a view of both things. And if I if I go to the toilet and stand on tiptoes, I can see the Sydney Opera House. Just the top of it.
Maybe even the top of the flagpoles. Though, it's a long walk though if you want to go and see the CBS music shows that they have on over 5 minutes overnight when they want to fill the gaps in between their TV stations. They're really annoying because you have to go for a long walk all the way to the other side of Central Park. But it's good exercise.
I think we have coming in via audio right now, probably direct from somewhere down at Phillip Island,
the ocean,
on his way to Phillip Island or wherever.
The Penguins.
Dave Stillwell is joining us. Okay, there. Are you there, David Stillwell? Over.
Good 10-4 Rubber Ducky. I'm on my way to Phillip Island to celebrate 3 days of motorsport put on by PIARC, who's provided over 60 years of access to motorsport to all sorts of competitors at the island.
Well, this is wonderful, and it's not. We will talk about it a bit later on because it's actually not a bad turnout. They've got over 250 cars turning out for the weekend, and they kept the entry open late because obviously the 3-hour race for the HQs up at Winton was cancelled, and they put out a message the other day. And I think this was very good of them under the circumstances to say, hey, listen, if you guys want to have a run around with the saloon cars, you're welcome to join at the last minute. So I think the entries might even still be open until midnight tonight. So that's good news. So there might be a few extras turning up.
Yeah, no, it's unfortunately the category that I'm in the sports cars for the Victorian Tourist Trophy has suffered a couple of setbacks. Quite a number of competitors have been testing or tuning in the last week or two and have had mechanical issues that have forced them to withdraw. And of course, with the continuing border saga, our Prod Sports competitor friends from Queensland, while they can come down to Victoria to race, they currently can't go home until about the 17th of December.
Any significant wardrobe malfunctions in those entries that can't make it for those issues that you just said, Stilly?
Wardrobe malfunctions, you might have to elaborate on that.
The particular vehicles that won't be making it now. You said there's been some withdrawals.
Sven Burkhardt, who's obviously a long-time stalwart of the Victorian motorsport scene, a passionate supporter of the Porsche brand, and of course one of the stakeholders behind Tickford Racing. Recently acquired a 996 RS or a 996 RSR, one of the Le Mans spec Porsches of the late 90s, early 1000s. Of course, that car used to be one of the specially invited cars in the Australian GT Championship before it became a wholly GT3 formula.
Cut you off there. Maybe he's got something to do with the rumours that are going around. Porsche's going to enter Supercars, and he's extremely busy now and can't go down to Phillip Island this weekend. So, look, they're just a silly rumours.
Well, considering Sven is a very prominent lawyer in the motorsport space, I'm sure when asked, he'd say no comment.
Diplomatic as it is, UN style, absolutely awesome. But yeah, maybe that's. I'm just looking behind the scenes about tenfolds. Could have something to do with it, but look, that's just absolute ludicrous. Porsche in supercars.
Yeah, look, I think it's a case of we all know it's a slow news cycle at the moment in the lead up to Bathurst, and you throw stuff out there, but I mean that was one of the more ludicrous things when I saw it. And it was like, Porsche deny they're in supercars. Like, well, they've got an interest in supercars. Who in their right mind would have ever thought for a second that they would be interested in supercars? But anyway, somebody obviously thought it was a good beat up, and they gave it a run. So good on Speed Cafe for I suppose you got to generate something. It probably generated. I mean, we read it and we're talking about it now. So
because it's a great joke. It's called,
I think.
It's a good joke. That's all. That's why.
But anyway, it's not going to happen. So whereabouts, Dave? Whereabouts are you now? Get an update on the road trip. Whereabouts are you now?
Oh, he's jumped.
He's run off the road. That's where he is at the moment.
Don't. No, we wish Dave safe travels and every other participant that's heading down the Phillip Island.
He might. He's probably
especially on the roads. It looks like a car park this afternoon. Anyone? I mean, obviously, there's a couple of guys like Michael's just saying he's in Melbourne, and a few others that are tuning in as usual or listening to us on the podcast. How bad? Like, it's like a car park on a Friday at the moment. So drive safe out there.
Yes, it is. It's not that long a trip down to Phillip Island, but it has to be one of the world's most boring drives. It's just they put in a few. I noticed over the whole COVID thing, they threw in a few roundabouts here and there to sort of wake you up as you're driving down.
We'll have to call into that cheese factory one day and have a look and break the trip up for fun and see if they've got what they've got to offer, because there's only about 2 highlights along the way. And a few wineries, but you've got to get off the beaten track, which usually wineries are worth getting off the beaten track for. So
some of them.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on the wineries, but The problem is sort of, you're going down there, you want to get down there as quickly as possible, and then after a long day shooting or racing or doing whatever you do, you just want to get home. So you don't stop. I used to stop off at Grantville. They used to have a really good charcoal chicken place there, and I used to stop off there and get some charcoal chicken and a can of adult beverage, and sit down by the pier down there and have a bit of a break coming home from there. But the charcoal chicken place closed. So
well, the famous San Remo fish and chip shop's still going, I've heard. So that's
Very
does
good.
mega patronage.
David Howard saying, where do you get a Porsche crate engine? Actually, you can.
Germany.
Porsche Motorsport will sell you it'll cost you an arm and a leg, but you
I
can.
was going to say, a kidney or two, how much? Might be a couple of $100,000, wouldn't it, just for the engine alone? Where's the rest of the car?
Yeah.
Mac and cheese must be getting towards the end of its plate.
Yes, I think we're coming in live now from Purple Bunyip Country over at the Inpick Lane Broadcast Control Centre is Mr. Stuart Fairweather. Good evening, Stuart. Thank you for joining us.
And you are welcome to have me join you. You should be blessed.
Well, we feel blessed.
He's in one of those moods. He's going to let fly about halfway through the show again, and he'll just absolutely
Take that one.
He'll just let fly and
Better
just
than you should be burned at the stake, I suppose.
He'll explode on a subject coming up about halfway through the show anyway. Oh, just quickly, welcome, Stuart. Great to have you as usual. And, looking very suave tonight. Just on that note, because we know...
I needed to feel pretty for you, Doc.
Yeah, and I do appreciate it as well too. And for all the other fans that are watching, especially, they just get the extra benefits from it too. Brett, we did mention last week, though, our other counterpart that regularly joins us, that was probably freezing his wheel nuts off up there at Bathurst, that regularly participates in the Excel series. Have you heard from him, and did he survive?
He certainly did survive. He had he had a lot of fun up there racing in the. He didn't race. He had a couple of runs in the wet, but yes, I think he's getting ready because he's going to be racing down at quick turnaround. I mean, he raced up at Bathurst for Challenge Bathurst and got back. Thankfully, did no damage to either himself or the car, and has had a quick. Bit of a quick, sort of tidy up and a quick sort of between race service, and we'll probably early tomorrow morning, be heading down to Phillip Island himself to race in the field of Excels there, which I think was around 43 cars from memory. So that's one of the bigger fields on the weekend. Also coming up is the Phillip Island 50k plate, one of the most prestigious individual sports sedan races in Australia. A long history, the Phillip Island sports sedan plate going back to the mid 70s. And one of the competitors making a bit of a comeback, and I'm really surprised at this, considering that he's going to be pretty busy from pretty all of next week. Thomas Randall's coming down to jump back in the Saab, in the V8 powered Saab, and give that a bit of a run in the 50k plate. So we haven't seen Thomas out for a while. So also Jordan Caruso in the Audi will be back again. Mike Robinson in the Monaro. So a really good field of sports sedans, even though some of the nationals, a bit like when as Dave was saying with the sports car competitors, a few of them from interstate not able to come down, but there are a couple down. I think Steve Lacey's coming down from New South Wales in the Camaro. So yeah, pretty good field for the sports.
Well, I have to jump on that one, and it relates to wheel nuts again. I'm sorry, but this is in fact relevant. Thomas Randall made it in by the skin of his wheel nuts, because I saw a post from Thomas this afternoon that the Saab was very much in doubt for this weekend until today, because they were waiting on the new wheels for it, and they've been cast, and he's got the set of them sitting there, and he had them in the pick today. So wheel nuts and wheels and stuff like that, I think it was.
I'm not sure what happened there. He posted today that Derek Van Zelm has put together some new wheel inserts, some centres for the car, but obviously the other ones, it was. The car hasn't been out for a while, but obviously they did some checks and a bit of testing and found some problems. So they fixed that up quickly, and you would imagine that the fight between himself and Jordan Caruso, also Steve Tomasi, I think is racing there as well. Should be a really good one for the 50k plate. So that's something that's coming up on the weekend.
Thanks, Amanda, for the extra vote on the fish and chips down there. They are absolutely sensational. Can't wait to sample those again, or if they want to sponsor us. Boom, boom. On that note as well, though, too, what you were saying, I remember Thomas and a couple of the others, Jordan and Thomas, their last hit out testing was up at Winton a few weeks ago. So maybe that's where they were smashing.
Yeah, I think that's where they found the problems.
Find the problems, and everyone was probably working doing installation laps to see if they could find any bugs or gremlins that had jumped into the system while the cars have been sitting stagnant for a certain amount of time. So, good luck to our mate from In-Pit Lane, Richard, and I hope you've got a new set of wets, mate, because you probably bore them out at Bathurst from the weekend by the look of some of the footage that came down from Challenge. So.
Yeah, it was going. Speaking of footage, Richard has got some in-car camera stuff, which hopefully we'll get hold of, including a couple of laps in the rain. Although he had his own technical problems, not with the car but with the camera. So not sure exactly what he got it.
Oh, look, Stuart's only a phone call away. Stuart's just a breeze away. Anyway.
There you go. So anyway, let's talk about Supercars last weekend, and it certainly was wet up in New South Wales. The rain continued right over the course of the weekend, and it hit Sydney Motorsport Park, and they decided after pretty everything else, including the S5000s, went out in the rain. They basically decided, the Supercar guys, after a lot of phone calls and a lot of discussion, that no, they were gonna just basically pull the plug on the thing, and that was it. Well, there was no jumping puddles. There were certainly plenty of puddles there. Pete, the interesting thing is they have come under a lot of criticism, but the interesting thing is it's who they've come under criticism for. People like Paul Morris and our mate John Bow and a lot of experienced drivers, and some of the drivers themselves, obviously people like Shane Van Gisbergen and Nick Percat, a few of the guys who basically said, no, it was tough out there, but we should be racing in the rain, and we've got to adapt, and we've got to we should have at least gone out and given it a bit more of a try. So. Pete, did you watch it, and what did you think of it all? What did you think of the decision?
Yeah, I watched it. There was a lot of standing water on the track, so I think they need to fix their drainage at Sydney Motorsport Park. But it is one of the few categories that can race in the rain, and just in the last few years, they've suddenly become very precious about not racing in the rain. I remember it happened last year at one point where they tooled around behind the safety car and then called it. So I don't know why they've suddenly become very precious about racing in the rain.
The interesting thing was that as I said, with the guys running around in the pit lane, that Sean Seamer, the head of Supercars, the CEO of Supercars, was seen in very, very animated discussion on the phone. And I'm wondering if he was in sort of, one of the people he was in animated discussion with was sort of representatives from Foxtel, basically saying, hey, listen, if we pull the plug on this, have we still met our minimum number of races to get paid? So I think that was part of it. It would be interesting that if they were that short of the, if they'd have said no, if you don't race that race, you don't get paid, and you're in breach of the contract, whether they would have found a way to get out there. Also, whether, obviously Bathurst, the fact that Bathurst was so close, and I think this is one of the things that would have had to have come into their thoughts, were, as Jamie Whincup said afterwards, he said, well, it's, he said, under normal circumstances, if you had a major crash and the car was written off, you'd you throw it back into the transporter, you go back to Queensland, you fix everything up, you get replacements, and you come back. They can't do that at the moment. They're sort of, they have trouble getting back over the border. So they said, look, we just couldn't, as far as he was concerned, they couldn't and shouldn't take the risk. So,
and in qualifying that day, he actually did go off and hit the fence.
He was very lucky when you see how hard he went in there, and it's just he didn't
Very
do a lot of
deceiving.
damage.
Very deceiving how the big an impact they make sometimes from the different camera angles. Yes.
But it was the interesting thing was that some of the other categories, Super 2 did run, the Trans Am cars ran, and of course S5000 ran as well. And
there's a sideshow on that one. There's a note on that one. The side note,
which is
well, there wasn't a massive. It was complaining as such. It was just probably observations about the suspension and the track itself the flatness and the bumps and that, and they Sydney Motorsport Park, I think, is probably as a precinct itself, and the governing body has said that they will look into it and sort out some of the track issues, and maybe some resurfacing and maybe some adjustments made in future, so that way they can make it more easier for more acceptable for the cars to drive. And then furthermore, I won't. There's no use going into who, what, when, where, and how. But someone said, well, look, obviously the S5000s are going to be doing the 6-day event in Bathurst very shortly as well too, in a week and a half's time, and probably sooner when it comes to practice and getting the cars out there. And well, if you think Sydney Motorsport Park is a bit bumpy for the S5000s, you might find it a bit even tougher. You might want some 4-wheel drive suspension on those S5000s if they're going to do Mount Panorama. So, probably keep watch this space when it comes to the S5000s and some of the practice and qualifying, and see how the S5000 handled the one of the best circuits in the world, bar none.
Well, I think the interesting thing is, like if they were complaining about how bumpy the cars were at Sydney Motorsport Park. They did race it. They have raced at Sandown, and that's a hell of a lot bumpier than Sydney Motorsport Park. SMP is like a good deal smoother than most circuits going around. So I'm not sure whether it was the bumps on the track or whether it was just they were perhaps a bit aggressive on the curbs. The curbs are pretty aggressive at Sydney Motorsport Park, but either way, it'll be interesting to see how they go. The action. David's with us again.
I was going to say, apologies for dropping out. I'm in and out of the 4G coverage. Obviously, not enough vaccinated people down here on the island to spread all the 5G around.
Yeah.
The issues with the S5000 cars, I believe, were highlighted by the digging out of the dirt around the exit curb at turn 7, Corporate Hill, and the ride heights in the S5000 cars being a hell of a lot lower meant that if they snuck wide and they ran their suspension arms, they actually had not just wheel and tyre contact with curb, but they actually had suspension arms coming into contact with the serrated curbing, which of course weakened them, and then and then tip into turn 1 at 250 is not a surprise they failed. So I think they'll be perfectly fine at Bathurst.
We're concrete walls instead of curbs.
And down Conrod Spate when you're going faster and you're bouncing around a lot more, unless you stiffen up that suspension, might need a bit more air in the shocks. And I'm just elaborating a little bit there.
It'll be interesting to see. Action gets underway at Bathurst on Tuesday with practice, and the telecasts on Foxtel and KO starts on the Wednesday, and there's some races on Wednesday, and it's a pretty full card over the 6 days that they're running there. But it'll be really interesting to see what sort of lap times those S5000s end up doing at Bathurst, because if you have a look at sort of like the Christopher Mees, who is going to be running at Bathurst in both the TCR and also the GT, he's come across from Germany. He's going to run at there. He's the sort of our outright lap record holder there with a lap just under the 2 minute mark, which is incredible to think about it. So
it's amazing how fast the GT3 car is when you pull the restrictors out of it and take all the weight out of it.
Well, that's why I said about him being sort of the lap record holder, because the car was.
Well, he is, but he isn't.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's not, it's almost like a time attack car. But the fact that he was going, we've had a car run around Bathurst in under 2 minutes, and I think that Motorsport Australia would, if any of these S5000s did end up going around in under 2 minutes, I think that Motorsport Australia would be raising the eyebrow a bit, sort of, Dwayne the Rock Johnson style, and going, hang on a second, guys. They
don't like being second fiddle to a faster category.
Well, I'll just go a little bit bigger on the picture there, Brett. What if multiple cars, not just one, went around under 2 minutes? Whether that was a consistent amount of cars going around, that would shave your eyebrows off.
Well, if I may, folks, if you cast your minds back to the Bathurst 6 hour, there were some demonstration runs run by one of the S5000 cars as a data gathering exercise. It wasn't timed and it wasn't flat out, but the data from that was shared obviously by GRM with all the teams to give them a fundamental understanding of, what are the suspension loads, what are the aero loads like in that car at that circuit.
What was the unofficial
What's the estimate?
Scribbling on the piece of paper saying?
Well, it wasn't timed, and they were under, as I understand it, I think they were under very strict instructions not to.
Spitball an idea. What do you think?
Someone would have put a stop.
If it was your bum in the seat, what do you think you would be capable of doing?
I think
in an S5000.
I think an S5000 would struggle to compete with an outright GT3 car at Bathurst, purely from the perspective of, if you consider we've got supercars which are about the same speed in a straight line as an S5000 car, but a GT3 car actually has substantially more aerodynamic downforce than an S5000 car does. Like, part of Chris Lambden's vision of the category was that it was not going to be one of these downforce or no force categories. So the level of aero grip the car has, which is what makes you quick in sector 2 between the cutting and the elbow, it really doesn't have the same level of performance as a GT3 car, nor is it from a mechanical grip perspective from the tyres. The tyres are from Hoosier are designed to last the whole weekend, as opposed to some of the very high spec Pirelli rubber that's on the GT3 cars. So, again, I would be very surprised if we saw a lap time with a 1 in front of it. But again, we'll have to see what pans out on Tuesday and Wednesday. Maybe that's why they don't have the TV going on Tuesday, so they can hastily put some intake restrictors on the cars if they're a bit too quick on Tuesday.
Oh, conspiracy theorists.
Very political answer there. Notice there was no actual number, or no figure given. Just it won't have a 1 in the front of it. He's not going to commit to it.
Well,
good political statement there by Dave Stilley.
Well, he was stringing it out, and I said, "Come on, you could have just talked on forever and ever. Like, just get to the bloody scribble bit down the bottom of the piece of paper and what lap time it was doing."
Yeah.
So
what's the official GT3 record around there? What is it?
It's like a high 1 from memory, wasn't it?
I'll punch it up now. Bathurst GT3.
Yeah, so
I think the race lap record is still Van Gisbergen in a McLaren early in the morning sometime.
Yeah,
I'll do it now. I'll bring it up.
That sounds about right. Yeah, I'd be very surprised. I'm sort of if we were having a competition right now.
I have it here. Christopher Mees, it was official.
No, that doesn't count.
No, I'm just saying. Let me just lead into it, like you were doing before. Christopher Mees is the official outright record holder, setting a 1:59.2910 during the Challenge Bathurst event in 2018, driving a de-restricted Audi R8 Ultra GT3 car. Then you continue on for a minute, and I'll get to the rest of it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
So
we went.
I think it was very shortly after that the artist formerly known as Cams quickly rejigged the national the circuit race standing regulations, or the part of the NCRs, to state that circuit racing lap records could only be set during a race, and times in practices and qualifyings or any other sessions did not count as official circuit racing lap records.
Well,
So if you want to get really,
always the case with me growing up. It was always like race lap records had to be set in the race.
I'll throw an even funny one in here. If you want to get really, say, okay, outright lap record in any car whatsoever. Jensen's Button Formula One car back in 2011 did which was the McLaren / Mercedes MP4-23, shattered that what was before. He did it in a 148.8, and Craig Lowndes is only a second slower than Button in the same track. He's in the same car, the F1 car, when Lowndes had a steer of that Vodafone too. Continue on, guys. I'll get to the next one, the GP.
Yeah, let's face it, the open wheelers should be the premier category in the country, the same as they are in the rest of the world, and they should be the fastest cars at every track.
Okay,
Period.
Shane Van Gisbergen is the fastest man around Mount Panorama under race conditions.
Now hold on, is it a 2016?
201.567 during the 2016 Bathurst 12 hour, which he and teammates Alvaro Parente and Jonathan Webb won outright.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if the S5000s do go that quick. I'm thinking, what's the supercar record now?
Just
the
quickly,
race lap record, I think, is a mid or low 4 from memory, and qualifying is a low 3.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm thinking the
here's the next one.
are going to. I think they're going to be around the two threes. High 2 2s and 2 3s.
Quickest car with a roof, so to speak, so that your tin top roof honour goes to the Brabham BT62, which set a 158.69. And the man of the moment last few weeks, but it's been just put in the passenger seat for the time being. Luke Yilden did that back in 2019, Bathurst 12 hour. And lastly, this one is actually for every racing enthusiast that wants to drive a car around Bathurst and in their road going. The Mercedes AMG GTR did a 2 minutes 16.5 in 2017, and that's the fastest that anyone's gone around in a production car. Your question, Brett, for the fastest supercar record was set by Chaz Mostert, man of the moment with the TCR for grabs for he got one hand on the trophy this year. He did it back in 2019, and he set a 2 minutes. Current supercars 2 minutes 4 seconds 0.76, but everyone remembers Scott McLaughlin's 2 minutes and 3.3783 was set during the top 10 shootout, but was later scrubbed from the record books because of that. That's right, we had that valve clearance problem.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what the 5000s do. But I think that they have made it very clear that they wanted them to be over the 2 minute mark. And I must admit, I'm really impressed with those tyres they're running, those Hoosier tyres, because they're going they're going faster at the end of the race than they do at the start of the race. They're getting really good life out of them, and they seem to be holding up well, and they're giving enough. They're
rubbering up and holding
temp. Interesting.
So, rubbering up and holding good temp.
Yeah, so I think.
Well, on that note, gents, while you're discussing getting hot and bothered with all your rubber, I will bid you adieu, and I'll catch you next week after probably after some action at Mount Panorama.
We'll have to have a wrap-up, please, next week.
Next week we will have some... this won't be theoretical. We'll have some times to go. Okay, Dave, we'll catch you... might catch you down the weekend, but we'll see you next week otherwise. So
enjoy the weekend, Silly.
Dave Stillwell live from his car on his way down to Phillip Island. So we did mention the name Chaz Mostert. Chaz Mostert was basically, he was in the lead of the TCR series when it was sort of cancelled, and he was not going to contest the last round because obviously, his priorities at Mount Panorama will be the Bathurst 1000. But after they released the schedule, he had a look at it again, and he's obviously spoken with the team, and they've said that not only will he be able to run the TCR car and go there, but he will also be behind the wheel of the GT car as well. So he's going to be a very, very busy lad over the next few days or the next week, running in TCR, running in the Australian GT Championship, and of course in the Supercars for the Bathurst 1000. So
he's not short of a steer, is he?
Yeah, well, good luck to Chaz. It's good to see. I mean, people used to do that sort of stuff all the time, and it's good to see drivers like him. And
well, he used to cut it pretty fine, but a lot of with his exploits on driving multi amount of cars, there used to be a lot of travelling in between because he was a factory BMW driver overseas when he was an Australian import. So, unfortunately, COVID and a few other factors contributed to the termination of it by mutual both parties. So he has got good form in other categories other than supercars, and hopefully in the future will probably spread his wings again to doing some more of that because he's got talent there and he's proven it. Because he was they won something significant in that Beamer overseas.
Yeah, won the Pete, was it Daytona or Sebring?
Daytona, yeah.
I think it was Daytona. Yeah, I think it was Daytona. I know we spoke to him after that. I spoke to him up at just before all the chaos started. I went up to Sydney for the launch. We spoke to him up there and sort of congratulated him on that win. And he was very keen to keep going and doing that sort of stuff. And BMW were quite keen to keep him, but unfortunately, the situation was, if you're talking about the European, the rumoured European company that it may be interested in supercars, I think the one that is far more likely would in fact be BMW, because they've got cars that would sort of fit in that overall scheme in terms of being, So.
Another thing to look at, I can't remember the reputable source of journalism and publication it came out in the last day or two. Have a look at Scotty McLaughlin's last podcast review, where he talks about his last 3 years in supercars in Australia, 2017 to 2020, and where he won a couple of titles there back to back. He was not scathing, but he was extremely disappointed in the way supercars was being run and handled with the rule changes and also the parity especially. And also he also talked about the highs and lows he was having himself personally and dealing with the problems the team was also having difficulties with, and also other teams, and also, as I said, the running the series. And probably just a little, without giving a spoiler alert too much, he did mention with the parity problems, it was trying to get the ZB Commodores and the Mustangs. He thought was in favour of too much at one stage. He thought was in favour of the other one too much at one stage. Like the Commodores were getting all carbon fibre and making lighter all around, whereas the Mustangs were still all metal all around, and therefore that there was wing drummers at the back where all the there was changing of millimeters and changing of length and all sorts of jazz like that. And he also said there was opportunities by both teams to actually probably go guns blazing throughout a season, yet the other one would win it. So a really good read. If you're not feeling the bit like listening to the podcast, have a look at the article on Scott McLaughlin's 3 or 4 review that he just said nothing against supercars in Australia, but he was done and dusted, and he really wanted to get overseas and rejuvenate his passion.
Well, he's certainly done that, and it'd be good to see him in action next year. He's there's no doubt that sort of Roger Penske's got a huge opinion of Scotty's talent. So so best of luck to Scott about that. A couple of other news, a bit of supercar news. Our recent guest on In Pit Lane, Macaulay Jones, has of course officially re-signed now. He did that sort of late last week, so he's officially back on board. And also Jack Smith is also back with BJR as well. So he's going to be running again next year. So the driver market is sort of settled down. The other news that came out today, nothing is official yet. This has all come down on Speed Cafe, but you usually know that they usually get a lot of inside stuff leaked to them, and I think it might be a bit of kite flying, but either way, what they're saying is that next year for the supercars, Sandown will remain on the calendar, which it wasn't originally on the calendar for this year, but it replaced the cancelled race at Albert Park. So Sandown put up their hand, and they did run at Sandown. Now apparently they are going back to Sandown in 2022, but they're not going to Winton, and I think that's really interesting.
Winton's got the flick.
Yeah, and that's silly for the quality of the racing, but the reason for that will just be purely the number of people you can get in the gate. Sandown is in the middle of a metro centre. You'll get a lot more people will do the short drive, say half an hour to an hour to drive it, whereas the drive to Winton can be 2 hours, 3 hours for people who want to attend.
Yeah, but what they get there,
having been there, we can say that Winton is worth the drive.
No, well, Winton actually usually does get a bigger crowd. Winton gets a huge crowd because it takes in everybody, all those country areas, right? You know, people coming from Mildura, down from Canberra,
Bendigo, Shepparton,
from Melbourne, Bendigo, Shepparton, all around those areas.
It's a longer drive, and city people won't do it.
Oh, city people, certainly this city person won't do it just for one day, but it's been one of the most successful, overwhelmingly successful rounds of supercars. The interesting thing is it's also been the round that supercars have probably the least amount of control over. That's why it's such a good meeting, because you'll often see the Winton will occasionally say, yeah, we're going to run, we're going to run what we have to run. We'll run the supercars, we'll run your Dunlop Super 2s, we'll run Carrera Cup and all the rest of it, but we might also run improved production or XLs or sports sedans or something like that. They have variety there.
They run a good meeting.
Yeah, they run a really good meeting up there, and the fact that
personally experienced it, they run a good show. Full stop.
So I think that it would be very interesting to find out. I imagine that, as they say, follow the money. It would be interesting to see whether that's got anything to do with whether supercars are putting their hand up and saying, because the only reason the Winton round happens is because of a pretty large injection of Victorian state government money into that, because of the regional through the regional tourism sort of scenario.
On the other half of the coin there, what we're talking about, the Sandown slot and the confirmed, unconfirmed, but basically it's written in pencil and just needs writing over the top of it in pen. The Sandown round next year is touted, and it's basically the same. It's almost a given that they're going to slot it in just before the Enduro rounds, where they usually have their because everything will probably go back to normal as far as the calendar, whereas they'll have Bathurst in October, and they'll bring it back earlier than what it is now. It won't be a combined round. They'll have probably some Gold Coast again as well too. Sandown will drop in. It might end up a 500 where they have a Saturday, Sunday, and they go back to the retro style round.
I'd love to say that.
Yeah. And they'll probably do that. That's what they're saying it'll do, because what will then happen is the Formula One, which is going to be later in April, etc., like that, will then go back to its regular earlier start at the start of the Formula One season back in February again. So that's why they're slotting, trying to juggle all the balls, and hopefully they all land back in place, so that way all these events can follow suit again and they all fit into the jigsaw puzzle where everyone's happy whatever they're putting on for the public.
I think Taylor Benn's got a contract on the 500.
A 500 or a D 500. There could be multiple 500s.
The Supercars 500 endurance race.
But it doesn't matter. Sandowns could still have one again.
Yeah, it might be because I mean there was no doubt that there was something involved in the deal, and the pressure from the bend from Sam Shaheen was to get the 500, to get a 500 race at the bend, whether it was the Sandown 500, but I think that was one of the reasons that they knocked the Adelaide street race on the head, was because of the pressure from Sam, who put up his hand. I mean, he's a big donator to the political scene over in South Australia. If you spend some time over there, you'll see his service stations and convenience stores absolutely everywhere. I mean, they're on every corner of every. You don't see the stores you see here. You'll see the occasional 7-Eleven or something over there, but basically they're all the on the run brands over there. So he's obviously got a man with a lot of influence over there, and they've the current government there have thrown their weight behind having the event at the bend, but it's never going to be as good as there. Maurice also saying that is Phillip Island? That's the other one. I mean, Phillip Island, one of the best racetracks in Australia, and that's also that's been missing for a couple of years now. So
that is back. I've heard on the great Phillip Island will be on.
Oh, okay. So where did you hear that? That's certainly what I hadn't heard that.
I heard it through not social media, not through all the usual channels. I heard it from a reliable source that's in the motorsport industry. So, because I was talking to him, he is a member in the motorsport industry in Melbourne and that sort of stuff. I won't comment. His first name's Ray, but I won't go surnames. He said Phillip Island's will be on, but It could be, I could be proven wrong. He could be proven wrong at some stage. But anyway, we'll have to wait and see. But he says
if that's the case, that would be sort of that would, I suppose, explain a little bit why Winton was sort of moved, because I think they've made it pretty clear that they don't want 3 Victorian rounds. They're happy to have 2. But or they don't want 4 Victorian rounds. They might be happy to have 3, but they're not keen on having 4. So
the Grand Prix around.
Yeah, that's it. They'll have the Grand Prix, they'll have Sandown, and then if they have Phillip Island, that would give them their 3.
But it's more than likely, because I've brought this up before, because this was confirmed reliable information that from basically from Foxy himself. Lindsay said that he wanted a 3-year deal. Remember, this is 2 years ago, before when they were discussing the future of Phillip Island and Supercars. Foxy wanted 3 years. Supercars wanted 1 year. Supercars wanted the pit extension, the width of it changed. Foxy said no, because I'm not moving the pits, and it's millions and millions of dollars, and I'm not moving the pit wall. So that's why it became the disagreement, and that's why I got struck off the list in the first place. They couldn't come to an impasse. So I think times have moved on. They've learned to just live with each other again, and maybe Supercars realises the viability and how special Phillip Island is, and they're willing to compromise and still run an event down there.
I heard it was too expensive for them.
No, it was Foxy. They couldn't come to an agreement. They couldn't come into an agreement, because it is a fact that when it comes to Supercars regulations that they put into place a couple of years ago, the pit lane has to be a certain width between the garage doors and the concrete wall that the track. And Phillip Island is a dedicated motorcycle track. It's not a race car track, even though it's used for just probably more. So Supercars, and the reason why they have that certain width between the garage door and the pit wall concrete and fence is because of the cars and refueling and double stacking, and they need a certain amount of distance that they require to be a safe zone. And Lindsay said, I'm not moving any of my buildings or any of my tar or any of my walls or anything like that. And Supercars said, well, too bad, we won't have an event down there. So that's why I said people may have thought, well, let's just be sensible about this and let's make some compromises.
Yeah, well, for Phillip Island, the Fox has always said that the island, he's not going to make changes there to the track if it has any effect on the MotoGP or the World Superbikes. As far as he's concerned, yes, it's primarily a circuit for motorbikes as far as he's concerned. And if cars can run there, that's fantastic, and they'll make minor modifications. But any modifications, as somebody said direct to me down there, any modifications requested by Motorsport Australia will go to Motorcycle Australia and also the FIM first, and make sure they're not going to have any sort of effect on the standings of the MotoGP and World Superbikes. So so it's, if they want to race at Phillip Island, but I'd have to think, I don't know. It's just thinking about it. I mean, you wouldn't think that the pits at Sandown would be
the pits themselves, but as Doc said, it's the distance between the wall on the outside of the pits and the building itself. Phillip Island is 1 lane of traffic, whereas Sandown is 2 for a car.
Okay, yeah, probably right. Royce is saying, love on the run servos, massive fridges full of 20 types of local South Australian flavoured milk. Yes, look, you're a man of my own taste there, because people well know I'm a big flavoured milk.
To see that one.
Yeah, I'm a big flavoured milk, and yes, it is bizarre when you go to South Australia. Just how many different flavors there are, flavors and brands that you have never ever heard of of flavored milk in South Australia, and it's like you go there and you go, oh, I've never seen that before.
Dear Mocha tonight, I've gone against the grain. Dear Mocha.
Yeah, let's.
I'm in trouble. I've got the Dear Mocha. So, what is it? Pretty much. Big M owns probably half the companies anyway these days. So, but there's so much more flavoured milk. The boutique ones are coming out these days, getting off the subject to a certain extent. They want the real little type, like as if you were having a shot of caffeine, like a mini chino or something like that. They're all coming in tiny little cans now, and they're just highly concentrated caffeine. So it's just meant to give you a burst.
Yeah,
of course, the real problem with all these boutique drinks is finding the boutique cows and the boutique milkmaids to boutique milk them.
Yeah, right, exactly. And the boutique fancy dresses they wear as well.
There you go. Royals are saying yes. Well, Pete, you probably would have received this pre-sale access to grandstand tickets. All tickets sold out Wednesday afternoon when he went to. Have you got yours yet, Pete?
Yes. Yep, I have. Yep.
Did you have any challenges getting hitting the refresh button and securing a ticket?
No.
Okay.
Well, as you said, it looks like it's going to be a big one. You would imagine that there are the appetite for the Grand Prix and for major things. I believe it's the same sort of scenario. I know I was looking at the Adelaide, the first test in not the first test, the second test, sorry, for the night, the pink ball test for the Ashes, and there's a handful of tickets left for day 4 and 5, but it's basically sold out already.
Well, is that the Sunday for the F1 GP, or is there still tickets available for Friday and Saturday?
Usually the grandstand tickets go for the whole 4 days.
Right. Okay, so look, if you haven't been able to secure a ticket like the great man above me, just above there, like Peter, maybe it might be time to join one of the boutique clubs that are in Victoria here, because then you usually get a limited amount of tickets available for access for your club. So I might have to lean on a couple of board members or executive members of the clubs I go to and say, I'll take one of my cars on
these days.
Well, one of the clubs I belong to, there's usually 25 passes available for general admission over the 4 days if you enable your car to be put on display there for the duration of the event, and you get a free pass and access to a few things there. So there you go. If you're desperate to go to the Formula One, you've missed your ticket, join a club.
Yeah, well, seeing there as Roy saying, all the grandstands, but I imagine that there is, like he's saying, there will be they'll offer 2 more grandstands open soon. So that's a really good time.
That's in December.
in December, is it? Boxing also had problems. He was able to get some seats, so congratulations to him. So he's got through, and but it shows it does show that the popularity of the event. I mean, I suppose it's one of the things, as I think it was said last week. It's like, how are you gonna miss us if we won't go away? Well, they went away for a couple of years basically, and I think there's a lot of people really, really keen to get back in there. I mean, let's just keep our fingers crossed it all goes well. And
that means, if considering the popularity of it, there's 3 or 4 people on the screen right now. Looks like we might have to find that sounds like a good enough reason to do a live stream down Crown Promenade again and throw together a in-pit lane special edition.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the last time we did that, we were a jinx on them. I mean, we sat on the stage at Federation Square.
On the promenade, we did one. Remember there with the exhibition.
We did. Yeah, we did. That was the first one. We did.
That was excellent. That one. Yeah.
Did the one at Crowd Promenade with the Motorsport Fan Zone at Crown and the guys there, and then we did the same thing 2 years ago when the meeting that was cancelled on the eve of that from the stage at Federation Square. So we'll have to have a look at that and see what happens. I see that Troy has been. I haven't heard from Troy yet in terms of what's happening with the Motorsport Fan Zone for next year, but the Facebook page is certainly up and running, and they've spoken about it. So I'm assuming at this stage they might be back, and if they are, hopefully we might be able to get down there and do that again, because it was in both cases it was a lot of fun.
And well, speaking of a lot of fun, I'll throw myself under the bus and into the wolves again. Some of the Brett threw me the microphone and I did some vox pops, and there was a few reluctant people, but there was a lot of people that I talked into doing an interview, and they were hilarious. Look back on YouTube on that particular edition, and I just happened to stumble across some people from all walks of life, some of them that deliberately come across from the UK, specifically that go to the Australian Grand Prix, an English couple, and they were absolutely lovely, and they were going for Daniel Ricciardo, I think, as well, though, too, but they said they would be remiss if they didn't support a local UK driver, and just some of the funny comments they came out with, and some of their narratives it's fun. So yeah, looking forward if we can do that again and get amongst the we usually get amongst the natives all the time and love it. It's just like being at home.
Yeah, well, speaking of Formula One, Pete, Mercedes have announced that they're going to turn the wick up a bit on Lewis. You said on the final episode of In Pit Lane last week that you thought Lewis would end up overtaking Max and winning this thing. It's as a result of last week. I mean, it's your tip's looking good at the moment.
Well, they're already, Red Bull were already saying he's fast. Christian Horner was saying that their pace is incredible, but Max was saying I can't catch him. So if they do turn up the wick, that's going to be scary.
Yeah, I mean, certainly this new track that they're running at on the weekend, it looks like it's definitely going to. It's everyone's saying that they think it's going to favour. I think it's going to be very much a Mercedes track. So I think that I think it was Toto Wolff has sort of come out and said that basically it's not the time to play it safe now. It's nothing ventured, nothing gained. We've kept everything sort of we've looked for reliability. We've kept everything under control, but we're confident now that. With the last few races, we'll get to the end of the season comfortably, and we'll give there'll be a bit of a power boost there for Lewis and Valtteri over the next remaining couple of rounds. So,
speaking of the great man, I felt sorry for their test driver at the last race. I think what's his name, Valtteri. I think you said his name was there. Really felt sorry for the guy when they send your test driver out and they say, see how many laps you can do on what's supposed to be the tyre supplier's 30-lap life, and you only make 33 laps. You got to feel sorry. You got to feel sorry for the guy personally. He just when you're following team orders, you get run over the bus back and forth by a steamroller.
Well, everybody went to the race expecting a race, and instead we got a procession and a couple of tyre changes. Is there any chance that the next race is going to be less boring? Because it needs to be.
The Saudi looks more twisty, so maybe. And they're not. When they go back to Qatar in 2023, they're going somewhere else. They're actually not going back to Losail.
So, in the tradition of Qatar and sports, they would have bought a new location?
I didn't get it. Anyway.
Yeah, I think the I think the thing with the Losail track was, it's always been seen. It's a bit like Phillip Island. It was very much seen as and designed as a motorcycle track. That was, and the limitations on it as a car racing circuit was certainly very clear over the weekend. But the Saudi track is looking interesting. They're saying it's going to be the fastest sort of street circuit in the world.
Is it going to be finished on time?
There's lots of oil money that can make that finish on time.
Yeah, it's not just oil money. It's like, it's like, the supervisor comes in with a saw in his hand. He's not necessarily helping out to cut the pipe. So
it's going to say there's a saw that's got usually bullets in it as well, though, too. And anyway, the Saudis, the Americans, and the Japanese, and everyone's decided to pull the amount of barrels that they expel on a regular basis throughout a year in the last week, and the price of oil dropped by $20 a barrel. So they've got their angry pills at the moment. So you wouldn't want a track to be not running on time, because they're not happy campers at the moment.
They'll make it worse. They'll make it work, because it's very much part of the sports washing of that whole country and that whole area. I mean, the amounts of money they're putting into major international events, and the sort of what they're building to make them happen. I mean, are just absolutely ridiculous and quite obscene. I mean, you get the people like Lewis and all that saying, we're racing for equality, we're racing for, and they're racing in Saudi Arabia. Okay, fair enough. I mean, no, you're racing for money. That's what you're doing. So don't give us that.
Don't try and pull the wool over our eyes.
We're sitting, and it's the same with it's the same argument that was used with the WWE going over there. I mean, millions of dollars, and they said, the women were allowed to wrestle, and they had one match, and they wore neck to knee, and not even to knee, to the T-shirts and things locked up. When you consider the skimpy gear they normally wear, they couldn't do any of that stuff, and there were certain moves they weren't allowed to make because they were suggestive, and there was a whole bunch of things.
Skimpy gear. They're called costumes, Brett.
Yeah, and there were certain wrestlers like Sami Zayn, who because he was because he's Syrian, of Syrian extraction, was not even allowed to turn up. Yeah. And even if he wanted to, so it's. I mean, what would happen? I mean, if they turn up, if at some stage somebody from the W Series or something turns up, or you get one of the an Israeli driver or something turns up, what happens then? Or even an openly gay or lesbian driver turns up, what happens there? So
I'm going to throw this one right out there, but you wouldn't want to go into a embassy in another country that's run by one of those foreign diplomatic related problems, and I'm going to go in. This is getting very political here, but I'm very passionate about this one. A guy that used to write, that derived from that area and grew up in that area, and happened to write for I think it was the New York Times, and went into an embassy in another country and ended up getting chopped up into little bits.
Yes, and that's.
Speaking of funny little bits, the shape of this circuit, you've got a big head over on the right-hand side, and it looks like a long, wiggly tail. It
looks like a fish.
Well, I was thinking something smaller than a fish that normally finds a home with an egg, but okay.
Yep.
Okay, well, so you can see where you're coming. I was close. I was thinking more.
Literally cut where he's coming from.
Yeah, we know where Stuart's coming from. It's an interesting design. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be. It'll be interesting to have
Well, if it was going by Stuart's analogy, the arrow is pointing the wrong way from the checkered flag. But anyway, getting back to that, obviously, the finish line. The finish line. So you have the schematics up there, which we really thank Stuart for because he's quick on the buzzer getting this sort of stuff up. How long is the track, Stuart?
You know what? I will have to just F11 that page.
Just out of curiosity, yeah, because the length, sometimes they can be like, if they're like a hair.
3.87 miles.
Oh,
so what's that in real?
So it's actually significant in distance.
It's a big track.
Good.
It's going to be interesting to look at, but I'm not sure. Pete, do you know what time they're going to be? The race starts in Australia.
I think it's about 1 o'clock. Well, 1 o'clock in the morning, I think.
Yes. It's not too bad, but
it's not too bad.
Kilometers.
Qatar, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Not
6.2.
Oh.
What's it, the 5th of December or the 6th for us?
Which the
5th, 3rd through 5th.
3rd through 5th.
It was actually on the image.
Bathurst.
Yeah, so that'll be the 6th. That'll be the 6th. That'll be 1 o'clock in the morning on the 6th.
So you've
3rd through 5th. Although one's got to worry about why they're using a suspiciously Star Wars font for the title down the bottom corner there.
Bottom corner, right-hand corner. Oh, that's just
bottom right. All
even the Formula, even the graphics
Return
of
of the
Formula
Jedi.
1.
I think as Andrew's saying,
lovely work there from Chris. Lovely work.
Yes, you're probably right. Yes. Yes,
actually,
Return of the Jedi. Yes.
Yeah, and well Andrew S. Actually, you've made me furthermore to that question. Are there any overtaking corners? My question is, like I have asked on previous occasions when we're talking about new circuits, is it two DRS zones again?
Don't know.
I think it's.
Well, it
might be three, isn't it?
Two or three.
There's only two sections that are really long straights that could be used for the DRS. There's some switchbacks in the corners, but there really only is the one obvious passing zone, and that's into the last corner.
And will the wings be 85 millimeters on the car, so Max doesn't have to put his paws all over them and measure it?
Well, I think that worked. I mean, that stunt has worked. For whatever happens, that's because now they're cracking down on it. The scrutineers are going to take a very hard look at those wings again. So if Mercedes was doing anything at all that was outside of the rules or was playing with the rules, they're going to be called out on it now. So
watch this space.
After Qatar, they tested it again, based on Red Bull saying that there was funny business going on, and they've cleared it. They've said it's all legal and it's all fine
for the time being. Until someone else. Just going on to still Formula One, which I think it's very important. I was doing a little bit of a skimming over an article this afternoon too, was the one that Brett has pertinently put down the bottom there in the lower third. The comments down there is Eric Vanden's switch across from the Mercedes team. It should also be noted that there's only so much room to put him down there in that little section, that he has spent significant time at Red Bull and Ferrari. So he has a wealth of experience. Good luck to him over there at Alfa Romeo, and hopefully they can get...
I think it was Aston Martin.
Not Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin, I should say. And whether it would be Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin, middle of the range or bottom teams, we all want them to be competitive. It's not much fun when you just get one or two cars and one or two teams at the front constantly winning. Like Stuart said, a procession, it gets a little bit boring as bat droppings. So yeah, good. I hope Eric B goes across there, and he takes a little small step for mankind, for their team, and makes it a lot more fun for them. So good luck.
Andrew's saying that the race itself is obviously the telecast starts at 1, but the race itself is a 3 a.m. start apparently, and as he said, won't be getting up for this one. Yeah, I think I'm with you there. The good thing about those races, though, I mean, if you've got the time in the morning, I mean, you can get up sort of, and as long as you don't look at any social media or anything else, you can flick over to if you've got KO, you can flick over and you can have a quick look, and you can watch it basically watch it over breakfast if you got 90 minutes to 2 hours to play with at that hour of the morning. Let's just go to because we're running out of time, so let's talk.
Just quickly on that though, I won't that particular way of watching things. I just wanted to let people know that if you are interested, you can save $10 a month on that particular stream, starting with K. So $15 a month for the basic version, and it'll be $25 a month after 12 months if you wanted to watch sport. They're doing a deal at the moment. I won't advertise them for giving too much credit.
Let's not advertise. We don't want to give Rupert Murdoch any more money than he's got. The low lights.
Yeah. So, but yeah, if you really want to get some digital TV going, some pay TV going, it's $15 a month for 12 months at the moment. Yeah. Again, there's a deal on.
Let's quickly let's go on to we will get on. We'll just quickly because Box has brought it up. Macau Grand Prix last weekend. Yeah, obviously not the race it was, but yes, crazy GT race. Even crazier, believe it, was the local touring cars there. So some big crashes. I mean, it is, as we sort of said last week, one of the most unique motor race meetings I've ever been to, and that track is just absolutely insane. And there were some huge crashes. One in practice with the Lamborghini basically pretty much being cut in half. The whole front of the car was just absolutely destroyed, and thankfully the driver wasn't too badly injured. But running for Formula 4, it was talk about a processional race. It was normally Macau turns out really good races with the Formula 3, but this year it was the main race itself was very dull. But yeah, the GT race was interesting, and the local touring car racing there is always fun. They've got some really interesting categories in Hong Kong and China and Zhuhai, those sort of places. Really fun stuff. And also TCR ran there as well, and that was another some crazy crashes in that as well.
Speaking of TCR, just quickly related, just a quick quip. I think Toyota Gazoo brought out a couple of cars recently, and I think the one this week was the new Toyota 86 is being released. So you can look that up for yourselves, people. I'm not going to go into detail there.
Yeah, it's slightly less fugly, but it should still have a Subaru badge. They need to get rid of the Toyota badges off of that car and off of the BMW that claims to be a Supra. I'm sorry. Saying. I'm going to be opinionated on these things.
Go for it.
Because it doesn't even sound like a decent Supra anymore. It's a BMW with a different skin on it. It's not a real Toyota.
I must admit, Dave's not here.
Same with the BRSN.
Dave's not here. I saw the new BMW with the new nose on it. I mean, if you've seen the photos of it, you look at it and think, my God, what an ugly front. What an ugly looking car, what a hideous front on that car. I saw one.
BMW have been ugly since Chris Bangle got involved with the design and came out with the flame look. He fugly those cars completely right up.
Just let fly.
Well, let's. I saw
Bangle for BMW, Ball A for Mitsubishi. Never trust a designer that starts with a B.
Oh, there you go. But one good thing about the BMWs, they need to retain the dual round lights. They look fantastic, but they need to redesign parts of it, like Stuart's saying. I think because if you look at a BMW, traditionally the dual round lights are just that's significantly
beautiful. There. It was elegant. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I must admit, having seen the photos of them and not being impressed, but today I actually saw for the first time I saw one in the flesh. And it came round the corner. And I had a look at it. I was able to have a close look at it today as I was out and about. And I must say that
Hampton down on the bay.
No, but nearby.
Nearby Hampton, yeah.
Nearby, and it was. I have to say, it was. If it looked ugly, it might look ugly in photographs, but when you see it in real life, it's much worse.
I'll do a Wile E. Coyote.
Really hideous car.
Just a quick question though, Wile E. Coyote exclamation mark on that one, Brett, and then I'll put my finger up like Wile E. does. Genius at work here. What colour was it?
Black.
Okay. Yeah, that's hard.
Black.
It's kind of hard to ruin a car in black.
Yeah, I'd like to see something a little bit live with its lines. Yeah,
it just looked it just looked it looked horrible as it came round the corner and just it was there, and I sort of looked at it and thought, oh no, it just doesn't work. That's really that really it looks ugly. It's a very ugly car, at least in front of it.
And
anyway,
when it hit you, we've
got to go, guys, because we're way over time at the moment. We haven't got to MotoGP. Not a lot happening, but as you indicated before, Doc, interesting. MotoGP have announced that from 2024 they're going to, and this is sort of being seen by some people as the saviour of traditional motorsport and traditional sort of internal combustion engines. MotoGP are talking about a brand new carbon neutral fuel. So tell us about that. What do you know about that?
As you said, we're running short of time, so they have put 2 time frames into place for MotoGP, and this also is from the categories all the way down. They still will run a fuel, but it will have to be won't be necessarily a fossil fuel anymore. So 2024, 40% of the fuel has to be non-fossil fuel. 2027,
you can tell what it is.
2027, 100% of it has to be a non-fossil fuel. So it can still be a fuel, but it has to be obviously fossil fuel. It could be waste fuel. It could be e-waste or anything like that. So it's a very tight time.
I can tell you what it is.
Yeah, there you go. There's you could probably.
One word.
Ammonia.
Ammonia. Okay.
Ammonia.
Yeah.
Anyway, the same petrol station, and there's an Australian company that are investing in it for trains and for road trains.
So, if you want a speculation, we'll have a maybe a longer chat next week about it. But however, in the short stop of it, it's a short time frame. Look at where we are now. We're almost in 2022. We're basically and they've only got 2 years to get this developed. So you can see some controversy and some teething problems for some teams, let alone the factory ones and satellite teams by the time we get there. And then you've only got 3 years later, they've got to make this development, this new technology 100% work. So they might have to change the capacity of engines sometimes. We've gone from 500 cc's years ago back in the 80s and 90s to 1000s, and they dropped it back to 900s. There's all different scenarios that they'll have to bring to play, but they've made a statement. This is their benchmark. It's like Australia and the rest of the world wants to be carbon neutral by 2050 and necessarily rule out stuff. Well, this is big. This is a big statement. Just watch this planet and where we go there. Thanks, Brett.
If only there was a sort of some sort of bike that was powered by you could almost power by human power, for instance. Something you could you could use your own body and push it for.
Such a thing is heresy.
I can't see that. I can't see that sort of thing catching on. I don't know.
There was a flux capacitor. There was a flux capacitor that was in a DeLorean in a movie called Back to the Future that was powered by e-waste, where they just opened the compactor up. I think it was in 2 or 3 second movie or third movie, where you just open up and just put the garbage waste in from the front yard of someone's place, and that seemed to go all right and travel through time.
Yeah, but Royce, so Virtual are saying if it's ammonia, the Yarra River water must be worth a fortune now.
On a serious note, do not steal boats and drift down the Yarra.
Yeah, don't go through it. That's why I say every year at the tennis when
don't go chasing waterfalls.
I think it was either Jim Courier or Pete Sampras. Someone started the gimmick of diving into the Yarra, and it was like, yeah, that's not a good idea.
And in considerations, a lot cleaner than what it used to be 20 years ago. It's cleaner now than
it is.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's way and much cleaner than it was sort of 40 or 50 years ago when you had the abattoirs and the tanning place up at Abbotsford. And I'm old enough to remember them because I lived in the area for a short time when the one was Crook, and boy, the smell around Abbotsford and up that end of the river near Dwight Falls and all the rest of it was it was pretty.
The EPA has had some impact, at least on the Yarra anyway.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, guys, I think that's there. Well, I'll just quickly say we might try and get to talk to it next week as well. The Australian Top Fuel Championship, the new Series 4, which is coming up for this year, have finally announced their grand final. They're going to run the grand final as part of the Triple Crown at Darwin's Hidden Valley Raceway. But with the supercars and also with super bikes, and personally, I'm personally not madly keen on that. I don't think the Top Fuel Championship and the needs to piggyback onto that. That could be a very, very successful meeting in its own right, without sort of piggybacking and playing second fiddle because they will be playing second fiddle to the supercars.
They'll be playing third fiddle to the others.
Probably, despite the fact that that's probably what's going to bring in the crowd. I mean, it's inverse to their influence. I mean, you'll have the drag racing, you'll have the super bikes, then you'll have the supercars in terms of the people coming through the gates.
I don't know what the itinerary will be, but if they have the drags at night, that'll keep the crowd around.
Well, that's it. Well,
a whole fresh crowd comes in for it.
Some people will hang around for it though as well too, so it could be greater than imagined crowd. That's I'm trying to pump up the tires a bit.
They did it this year.
Sorry,
they did it this year.
Yeah, I mean that was more sort of more of an exhibition thing, and I mean it was, and once again they attracted a really, really good crowd. But the real race meeting was the one that Stuart and I went up to and actually covered up there. We did the live stream. That was the Top End Nationals a couple of weeks after that, and that attracted a really good crowd, even though they didn't have all of the major teams. The only sort of major interstate guys were there were the mad
Western
Professor John Zapier. Yeah, well, John Zapier, and also Taylor from up here, from down here in Melbourne, who came up as well and was looking to be stranded as well. But
we are running completely over time, but quickly around the room, because I didn't do it last week, as we're doing Grazie VR. Thank you to my T-shirt supplier who gave me a great deal. Quickly around the room, your most livery in when it comes to your top fill or drag car or door slammer or custom or whatever it is. Pick one out. Give us your livery, guys. Pete, anything that stands out for you?
I don't know much about drag racing. I'm not heavily
into
drag.
Chris, any favourite drag car liveries?
Red and blue.
Red and blue. Okay, yeah.
Very popular, very popular.
Stuart's got to have one. He's seen a few in his time.
Got to go with John Force.
Okay.
With the classic casserole back and the speed lines.
Yep.
I'm going back. There's two that really. One car that we covered. Stuart might remember it if he was out at that time as well. Scotty Cannon came over from America in a top door slammer Studebaker with sort of a red flame job and all that. But on my wall, well, probably it's so hard to pick because the Shaker, the local Monaro bodied funny car was amazing. Satisfaction, Joe Perotta and Charlie Corona's Gasser was just an extraordinary paint job as well. The Bounty Hunter, if you do a search for Ian Splatt, the Bounty Hunter, that was just an amazing paint job as well. There's been so many of them. I mean, there's been so many good looking drag cars. It's hard to pick a favourite.
There's one other to mention, and that was the 300Z run by the Sammets that was painted in the classic blue, white, and pinstripe red. Sort of like the martini colours, but more the Nissan design that you also saw on Group A's and the like, and on Nissan GTP cars.
Yeah, it was the factory. It was the factory livery, but with sort of with a touch of sort of metal flake in it to give it that drag racing edge. But there's just been so many.
I was going to say,
beautiful
awesome guys, and Zappier's had some great turned out cars that we've known over the years, and you can't go past the Victor and Ben Bray Castrol ones as well, though too.
Ben Bray's Corvette is an absolutely beautiful.
So I'll put the Brays up for things. All right, Brett, your little bow, neat little bow, off you go.
Okay, well, that's all we've got time for this week on Full Course Yellow. Thank you to everybody for joining us once again. Hopefully now next week, as I said, if we do manage to get down to Isle of Magic on the weekend, I'll at least take a camera down and we'll wave it around in front of something. So we're not sure what it'll probably be seagulls or something, but they'll be really cool seagulls, and they've got Yeah, so we'll
special guest appearance by penguins.
Possibly penguins. Yes. No, I think we can't afford the penguins. You can't take cameras, any sort of like professional or semi-professional video or photography gear into the penguins. The penguins have agents, and you want the penguins. You pay the penguins. The penguins don't come cheap. Let me tell you.
They do if you got the right bait.
Yeah, and the agents will play ball for the right bait too. Anyway, we'll leave that one alone.
Okay, well, we'll see you all next week. Now, remember at the earlier time of 9 o'clock, just until the end of the Formula, the week after the last Formula One, and then we'll take a break. As I said last week, the plan at this stage is to try and come back on Channel 31. I've had a bizarre day today. I was wandering around Springvale. I had all sorts of people come up to me and say, "Oh, when's the show coming back?" So that's really great. That's fabulous. That's fabulous news that people are actually out there watching there. And
1 week down, and they're already saying, "Where the hell have you gone?"
Yeah, that's good. That's good news. But also, I called in to get my flavoured milk from Woolworths at Springvale, and Aidan said hello to Doc. He used to work with you at Hampton Park. So
yes, he is a special man. We are friends. I'll give him some man love in the next couple of days and send him a message. But
I mean, that's between you and him. I mean, that's
via social media, man love. Without the Tim Payne extras that we could do. Seriously, no, we have other interests at heart there. But thanks for that. Look. It's good that all the fans are going to be back, and that's what I said. Hopefully, Brett, we can, and with the help of Stuart and Chris, if he wants to jump on a camera, Pete always does some floor manager stuff remotely for us too. We can bring you some special stuff over, something before Christmas, if not something in the can or the pipe works.
Who knows? Anyway, we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us on Full Course Yellow. Remember, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. Until then, next week. We'll see you next week. Bye for now, everybody.
Have a great week.